Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Today we are making a paper towel dispenser for my kitchen. My wife has been wanting one that mounts underneath the cabinet rather than standing up and taking up cabinet space. So we've made this. It has a slightly different rod connection so that the rod doesn't come out. And it's a lot of fun. It's made of hickory, the same wood that my cabinets are made of, so all matches and staying the same. Let's dive into the project. For this project, I'm going to be using hickory. It will be matching the cabinets I have. It's a hard wood to work with, but a really useful one. I do have plans available for this on my website. You can go and pick those up. I'll have a link down in the description for that. But all of this sizing, I'm actually just doing off the paper towel roll I have. I'm going to be cutting this out of a stick that's about 3.5 inches wide. The base piece will be slightly longer than the paper towel roll, and then there'll be two sides that come up on either side. So I'm going to be cutting off those 3 pieces out of this one stick. Just using it in the bench hook makes it fairly quick work. I want the 2 sides to be exactly the same length, so rather than measuring them out, I'm actually going to use one to mark the other one, and that way I know that they are precisely the same length and will match up. Once that is done, it's time to start working on the dovetails, and this is where all the fun comes out. Now I have several videos on dovetails. I have videos on how to make them faster. I have videos on how to make them very simply, and I just don't want to go into that much detail in this video. If you want to see all that great detail, go check out those videos. But in this video, I'm just going to do a quick overview. For my general process, I lay out a line on the top, I lay out a stop cut, I put my saw on there, and I cut at an angle. What that angle is, I do not care. I'm cutting the tails first, and it doesn't really matter. As long as the 2 angles look kind of close and similar, it's a dovetail, and that is really the only thing that matters. Once I've cut down those 2 angles, I can rotate it 90 degrees, keeping it locked together, and this will allow me to cut the shoulder that will, well, create the tail, removing the piece in between. On this set, I'm just having the one tail. Don't really need anything more. There's not a huge structural support issue, so one tail looks good. I like it. After cleaning those up, then we can start laying out and transferring the lines from the tails to the pins. And I do this in the vise, being very, very careful to lay out the lines precisely and drive them over. This is where most people have the problem. If your lines are accurate and you cut to your lines, then you're going to have a decent dovetail. If your lines aren't accurate, you're not going to have a decent dovetail. So take your time and lay it out well. And the next thing we'll do is grab the dovetail saw again, stay on the correct side of the line, and cut down to the baseline.
Since we're cutting these in
The test of a woodworker is in dovetails. Just check them out and you'll know. So let's grab the chisel and start sharpening it. I always want to make sure I have a sharp chisel on the bench. There's nothing worse than having a dull chisel that's wasting your time and causing all sorts of problems. Just a few moments back on the sharpening plates and strop will bring it back up to a really nice, crisp, clean, sharp edge that will last a while. It's very important, especially in this hickory, because it will dull it fairly quickly. I don't use a coping saw to take out the waste in between. I just find it to be a little bit quicker to grab a chisel and do it. But everyone has a different preference, so whatever you like, go for it. I'm going to start by moving it into the wood a little ways away from the marking line and chop down a little ways, then pare out to that line, and then chop down and pare out and continue that until I'm down about halfway. Ends up taking just a moment or two on one side, flipping the wood over, and then a moment or two on the other side, and you'll remove that piece. So you can see how I'm basically cutting down at an angle, removing the material from this side. If I do it from this side and the other side, then I'll come halfway through until pop, the piece comes out, just like that. And then I can come in and clean out the line, make it all right, until it slides down in, and I have a dovetail. I love that moment. Nice clean dovetail, right off the saw, happiness. Now let's get back to doing a little bit of the decoration on this. This really doesn't have a whole lot of space to do decoration, so I'll be adding a chamfer to either end of the 2 sides. Just a little bit of decoration, nothing massive, and I do like my chamfers, so yeah, there we go. Next thing I want to do is drill a hole for the dowel to go through that the paper towel sits on. So what I want to do is pick my dowel and then make sure that my bit fits it. I do check my bits because not every bit is exactly its measured size. And then we can put a ring on it, and this ring will tell me if I am drilling too low or too high to make sure I'm drilling straight through the wood. I have the 2 blocks clamped together so that the hole will be precisely the same from one block into the other, and I'll just go all the way through one block into the other until the tip pops out, back it up, turn it around, and then I will bore through from the other side, and you get a really nice clean hole all the way through. It makes you very happy. So next time you need to have that precise clean hole, an auger bit, and drill from one side, drill from the other side, you're good. Now, to keep the dowel from rotating, I actually want to create a flat spot on the dowel as well as a flat spot in these holes. So I'm going to use a square file and file out the corners of the hole on the bottom edge of each of these sides. Now with the flat spot in the sides, we can do a little bit of detail work on these side frames. I just add a light chamfer to all the corners, makes them pretty, cuts the edge, and everything is much better with a chamfer. On for the glue, I'm going to be using some high glue. Why high glue and not tight bond? Because it was there, and high glue is actually really good. I like the liquid high glue, it goes together quickly, it's easy to clean up, and it's just a really good glue. I like to use it whenever possible. Put it up in the beam clamp, and we can set it aside and then start working on the dowel that will go through this. First thing we need to do is cut the dowel to length. And I'm just going to stick it in, make it stick out about 3/4 inch or so on either side, and mark it whatever that needs to be, cut it to length, and voila, it's done. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on it. Next thing I need to do is create the flat spot on the dowel so that it fits into the flat spot on the sides. I'll just use the marking knife to mark off where the sides of the frame actually intersect with the dowel. Then I can pull it out and cut down just a little ways. I'm only cutting down 1/8 of an inch or so. In parallel lines. Then I can come in with a chisel, remove the waste in between those, kind of creating a mortise, but just a flat spot that will sit with the flat spot on the sides. To pare out from the other side, it's easier to put it in the vise rather than using the paring stop, but whatever way works for you. Once you have both of those cut out, then you basically have a Lincoln log that will then lock in and won't rotate as easily with the paper towel when it rolls. And that's about it for the structure. The rest is just a detail and cleaning work. You can use a whittling knife to clean up the ends of the dowel, any of the round spots, adding a slight chamfer on there. And then drop it all on the floor.
I hope you got that.
Oops, oh well. Then we can smooth out the frame once it comes out of the clamp. And I'll just use my smoothing plane, making sure to go with the grain and clean up all the edges and surfaces. I really like this part because it's where all of the glue gets cleaned off, all the joints come through, and you get to see exactly how tight your joints are. And most of the time, planing a dovetail ends up making it look better than it did when it was raw. It just makes me happy. Then again, throwing a chamfer on all the edges, and on the inside, I can't use the plane, and so I'm going to use a card scraper. A good, sharp card scraper really does the trick here. And if you don't have one, I actually have them for sale on my website, so you can go take a look at that, woodbywright.com/shop. Now for the finish of this, I'm actually going to be using a stain. I have Minwax Early American, and this will make the hickory match the hickory in my kitchen, because it's all been stained the same. It's the same stain as on my trim, and that way I can make sure that the color matches exactly from one to another, especially with hickory because there's such a wide color gap. After the stain has been on and dried and I wipe off the excess, then I'm going to come in with some polyurethane. I actually mixed up a batch of wipe-on, and that's about it. It is done and ready to be installed. For installation, I just put a couple screws down through the cabinet into the frame, put a paper towel on it, and voila! A really simple project, a lot of fun. You can do it in an afternoon and free up some space on your countertop. So there you have it. It's a really simple project. It doesn't take that long. Plus, it gives you a little bit of practice with dovetails. I like the way that this comes together, and with the rod locking in place so it's not going to fall out. I'm looking forward to seeing how that lasts over the years. So this was a really fun one for me, and I'm looking forward to using it for years to come. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. That does help out the channel. I don't have any sponsors here on the channel. I'm supported completely by you on Patreon. And those of you who buy t-shirts and card scrapers and other things like that on my website, thank you. You are helping making Wood by Wright what it is today. That's about it for today. Until next time, have a wonderful day.